So, what do we mean when we say institutions of higher learning? Think of them not just as buildings, but as ideas. They are special places where people go to learn complex things. They are not for learning to read or write basic letters. Instead, they are for understanding the universe, the self, and society. In ancient India, these places were seen as essential. They were the heart of civilization, where the brightest minds gathered. The goal was not just to get a job. The goal was to achieve moksha, or liberation. It was about understanding dharma, the right way to live, and karma, the law of cause and effect. This pursuit of knowledge was considered a sacred duty for many. In ancient Indian society, education was deeply valued. It was the key to unlocking a better life, both materially and spiritually. A well-educated person was respected everywhere. They could become a wise advisor to a king, a skilled physician who could heal the sick, or a philosopher who could guide people on their spiritual journey. Knowledge was not seen as a commodity to be bought and sold. It was a treasure to be earned through discipline, devotion, and service to a teacher, a guru. The belief was that an uneducated mind was like unplowed land, full of potential but unable to produce anything of value. Education was the plow that prepared the mind for the seeds of wisdom. These ancient centers of learning were very different from our modern universities. They did not have fixed syllabuses or formal examination systems in the way we understand them today. Learning was a more personal and profound journey. A student would live with or near their guru in what was known as a gurukul. This was an immersive experience. The student learned not only from lectures, but also by observing the guru's life and performing daily chores. This system was designed to build character as much as it was to impart knowledge. It taught humility, respect, and discipline, virtues that were considered just as important as mastering a particular subject. The purpose of this education was holistic. It aimed to develop the whole person, not just their intellect. The idea was to create individuals who were not only knowledgeable, but also wise, compassionate, and responsible members of society. The focus was on vidya, which means true knowledge or clarity, as opposed to avidya, which is ignorance or misconception. The Vedas and Upanishads, ancient sacred texts, constantly speak of this quest for light over darkness. Therefore, these institutions were more than just schools. They were spiritual powerhouses, dedicated to the highest goal of human existence, self-realization and the understanding of the ultimate reality, Brahman. Among the most famous of these ancient learning centers was Takshashila, located in what is now modern-day Pakistan. It is considered by many to be one of the earliest universities in the world, flourishing long before the time of Buddha. Takshashila was not a structured university like Nalanda. It was more a collection of individual teachers, each a master in their own field. Students would travel from far and wide, from different parts of India, and even from places like Greece and China to seek out a specific guru. They would choose their teacher based on the subject they wished to master, be it medicine, archery, law, or philosophy. It was a vibrant intellectual hub. The great physician Charaka, who wrote the foundational text of Ayurveda, the Charaka Samhita, is said to have studied at Takshashila. So did Panini, the legendary grammarian whose work on Sanskrit grammar is a masterpiece of linguistic science. Even the astute political strategist Chanakya, who guided Chandragupta Maurya to establish a great empire, was associated with this place. This shows the sheer breadth and quality of education available. A student would typically join a guru around the age of 16, and their study could last for many years. The completion of study was not marked by a degree, but by the guru's satisfaction with the student's mastery. Further east, in the land of Magadha, which is modern-day Bihar, stood the magnificent University of Nalanda. Unlike Takshashila, Nalanda was a highly organized and formal institution, a Mahavihara, or great monastery. At its peak, it was a sprawling campus with grand stupas, lecture halls, meditation centers, and massive libraries. It is said that the libraries of Nalanda were so vast that they were housed in 3 multi-storied buildings. When invaders set fire to it in the 12th century, the manuscripts are said to have burned for months. Nalanda was a beacon of Buddhist learning, attracting thousands of monks and scholars from across Asia, including the famous Chinese traveler Xuanzang. Admission to Nalanda was incredibly difficult. aspiring students had to face a rigorous oral entrance examination conducted by learned gatekeepers. Only the most brilliant could hope to gain entry. Once admitted, students received free education, lodging, and food, all supported by the patronage of kings and wealthy donors. The atmosphere was one of intense intellectual debate and spiritual practice. Nalanda was not just for Buddhist studies, it also offered courses in logic, grammar, medicine, and the Vedas. It was a true university in the modern sense, a place where different schools of thought were studied and debated, fostering a culture of critical inquiry and intellectual freedom. The curriculum in these ancient institutions was incredibly diverse. It was designed to provide a comprehensive understanding of the world. The subjects taught could be broadly divided into the sacred and the secular, though this distinction was often blurred. The study of the Vedas and the Upanishads formed the core of spiritual education. Alongside this, students delved into the 6 schools of Hindu philosophy known as the darshanas. Logic, or Nyaya, metaphysics, which is Vaisheshika, and epistemology, were taught to sharpen the mind and develop the power of reasoning. The goal was to equip students with the tools to question, analyze, and arrive at their own conclusions about life's big questions. Beyond philosophy and religion, a wide range of practical and scientific subjects were offered. Medicine, known as Ayurveda, was a highly developed science. Students learned about anatomy, surgery, pharmacology, and diagnosis. Astronomy and mathematics were also key subjects, essential for creating calendars, predicting eclipses, and for the precise construction of Vedic altars. The concept of zero and the decimal system, which originated in India, were part of this mathematical tradition. Furthermore, arts and humanities flourished. Students could learn statecraft, or Arthashastra, archery, and military science, which is Dhanurveda, music, painting, and literature, ensuring a well-rounded and complete education. Who were the students in these ancient centers? Primarily, they were boys from the Brahmin, Kshatriya, and Vaishya Varnas, or social classes. Brahmins often focused on priestly duties and philosophy, Kshatriyas on warfare and governance, and Vaishyas on commerce. However, this was not always rigid. The doors of learning were open to sincere seekers of knowledge, regardless of their background. Stories from texts like the Upanishads mention students from lower social strata, like Satyakama Jabala, being accepted by a guru because of their truthfulness. Princes and commoners studied side by side. While education for girls was not as widespread, there are notable examples of learned women like Gargi and Maitreyi, who were brilliant philosophers. The central figure in this entire system was the guru, the teacher. The relationship between the guru and the shishya, or student, was sacred and deeply personal. The guru was not just an instructor, but a spiritual guide, a mentor, and a father figure. Teaching methods were primarily oral. Students would memorize vast amounts of text through chanting and recitation. But it was not just rote learning. The guru would then explain the deeper meaning of the texts through lectures, stories, and parables. A key method was debate and discussion, called Shastrartha, where students would engage in intellectual contests to test their understanding and defend their viewpoints. This interactive method ensured that learning was a dynamic and living process. The decline of these great ancient universities, like Nalanda and Vikramshila, was caused by a combination of factors, including foreign invasions and a gradual loss of royal patronage. The intellectual light that had shone so brightly for over a millennium began to dim. However, the ideas and knowledge nurtured within their walls were never truly lost. They were preserved in manuscripts, carried by scholars who fled, and passed down through generations of teachers and students. The system of the Gurukul, though diminished, continued in smaller forms across the country, keeping the flame of traditional learning alive in pockets of resistance and resilience against the tides of time. The legacy of these ancient centers of learning continues to inspire us today. They stand as a powerful reminder that the pursuit of knowledge is one of the noblest human endeavors. The emphasis on holistic education, which develops the mind, body, and spirit, is a concept that modern educational systems are increasingly trying to embrace. The idea that education should not just be for a career, but for a meaningful life resonates strongly in our fast-paced, often materialistic world. The values of critical thinking, respectful debate, and the deep personal connection between a teacher and a student are timeless principles that remain profoundly relevant. When we look at modern India's top educational institutions, often called the Ivy Leagues of India, we see the echoes of Takshashila and Nalanda. The ambition to create world-class centers of excellence, to attract the best minds, and to contribute to the global pool of knowledge is a continuation of that ancient quest. The fame of these ancient universities serves as a source of national pride and a benchmark for future achievements. They remind us that India has a long and venerable history as a global leader in education and intellectual exploration, a history that can fuel the aspirations of a new generation of scholars and thinkers. Ultimately, the story of ancient India's universities is a story of light. It is about the human mind's unquenchable thirst for understanding. It teaches us that true wealth is not gold or land, but vidya or wisdom. The ruins of Nalanda may be silent now, and the banyan trees of Takshashila may have long since vanished, but their spirit endures. It lives on in the belief that education has the power to transform individuals and through them to transform the world. This is the enduring gift of India's ancient Ivy Leagues, a legacy that continues to illuminate our path even today in the year 2025.